Elo Rivera,
Present.
Member Gloria, Member Gomez,
Here.
Member Martinez, Member Medina,
Present.
Member Sanchez,
Present.
Vice Chair Shu,
Present.
Chair Bush.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to non-agenda public comment. Clerk, could you please provide public testimony instructions? I know we have a few speakers.
Thank you, Chair Bush. I would ask any members of the public that have requested to speak under non-agenda public communication to please approach the podium at this time. Those are members of the public that are joining us via teleconference, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that are provided on your Zoom screen. You may indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by pressing *9 now. We have 2 members of the public here in the chamber that wish to address the board. I would call first Cesar Javier. You can approach the podium. Please begin by stating your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board.
I am Cesar Javier, 72 years old, citizen. My wife, Purita Abaya Javier, 86 by April 7, 2024. We are senior vulnerable citizen of District 9 with our Honorable District Councilor Rivera. And from our city, Mayor Gloria is absent. I'm sorry. We are glad that for the first time, we will be facing the Air Commission Board, and we are grateful because we know this is our support. Please.
Air Commission Board, non-agenda, public input, January 11, 2024.
Excuse me, folks. Excuse me, just so procedurally, so how we need to do this is, are you done with your 3 minutes? And then, because we can't see time like that, so.
I'm sorry, sir.
No, it's okay. So
Yes, 3 minutes.
So just 3 minutes for her? Okay, just wanna be clear about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The first?
Yes, continue.
Yeah, you just start from the beginning, ma'am.
Okay, start again.
Air quality index today is pretty good. But when it's its film is fired at 50 to 38 Sturgis Drive, San Diego, the reading is not true. It has been there since 1984 as home business permitted by the city of San Diego in the residential zone designated community. The hitting of clay mixed with chemicals and metal such as silica and lead in foam, weatherboard, gas or electric produces or emits toxicity, polluting the air we breathe. The air pollutants, air particulates, contaminants, when inhaled or even ingested, have potential impact to health and safety. It also affects our environment or ecology and our increasing neighborhoods diversity. Our curiosity and learning about the minutes began in 2012 when the cone was fueled by wood residents on the upper fringes of the terrain thought of beekeeping as they observe smoke. Some even across the street, fronting the site through to the chimney of the fireplace caused the fumes and other unusual business because there is no display of products, no signboard. Not even the caution or warning, especially for children's safety or seniors with existing medical condition ensured. There was no referral to the residents as to the nature of business also. The community has no homeowners association to determine its viability. We began reporting the toxicity.
Para ver la cantidad de tóxicos.
May I continue with my 3 minutes?
Yes, just hold on really quick, because I think there were some translation issues. Is the translator on?
No, she's been muted.
Okay, great. So
Have you
I'm sorry.
concluded your comments now?
One was finished.
Okay, you have a few seconds left.
We'll give you 15 more seconds because there was an interruption, so we'll give you 15 more seconds, ma'am.
This is a violation. The ceramics and kiln operation in our neighborhood residential zone designated is not legal because it is not in accord with health, safety, and public welfare. Land use and environmental group from the compliance air pollution district. Ma'am, thank you for the first time I see you. I requested you on one-on-one, but I could only rely on your calendar 2022, which were filed there. I took it, I distributed to our neighborhood. The children has solution. It says here, clean the air. There is still time. Sorry for my English. That's the solution. Let's validate, let's study, and if it needs, revoke, repeal the ordinance. City Municipal Code Rule 11. Very devastating. It is accepting kiln furnace used in ceramics, heating, reheating ceramics product which emits toxicity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Javier. I will turn it over. So this sounds like a complaint. It sounds like our staff has been working on this for a bit. So Ms. Fogers, can you address or just let the board know next steps or how their issues being addressed?
Sure. So just to be clear, the record that was submitted today will be part of the record officially for this meeting.
Thank you.
And we will consider it as a new complaint and send it on to our compliance folks. I will say that we have repeatedly investigated at this location. Our Rule 11 does not require permits for ceramic kilns of this nature. And we have investigated for public nuisance on multiple occasions, even in the middle of the night. And so we will continue to keep an eye on it, obviously, but at this point, we have not been able to document any nuisance at that location or other violations of our rules.
Thank you. And clerks, other public speakers?
Thank you, Chair Bush. That concludes public testimony under non-agenda public communication.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is approval of statement of proceedings minutes for December 14th, 2023. Clerk, could you please provide public testimony instructions there?
Thank you, Chair Bush. Before I do, I would like to note for the record that members Gloria and Martinez have joined the meeting. I would ask any members of the public that have requested to speak under this item that are here in the conference room to please approach the podium at this time. Those members of the public that are joining us via teleconference, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on your Zoom screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no movement in the conference room or any hands raised online, there are no members of the public wishing to address the board on this item.
All right, thank you. So with that, moving on to colleague comments. Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve this?
So moved.
1 second.
So we have a motion from member Gloria, a second from member Shu.
Thank you, Chair Bush. Member Burkback Garcia.
Aye.
Member Elo Rivera.
Yes.
Member Gloria.
Aye.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Aye.
Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Vice Chair Shu.
Aye.
Chair Bush.
Yes.
Thank you. With members Lawson, Reamer, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. So moving on, there's no items for consent, so we're moving on to the main agenda. Item E1, election of officers. Is the chair, vice chair, military liaison of our APCD. And clerk, could you provide public testimony instructions again, and then we'll move on to discussion and the vote.
Thank you, Chair Bush. I would ask any members of the public that are joining us in the conference room to please approach the podium at this time. If you wish to address the board on this item, Those that are joining us via teleconference, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on your Zoom screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen or by pressing *9 now. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of any staff comments.
And no public testimony? There's no speakers?
I have one that wishes to address the board under public communication.
For this item?
So it seems that way. I'd like to confirm that the public speaker that is joining us via teleconference with their hand raised that you wish to address the board on item E1 for the selection of chair, vice chair, and military liaison. Okay, they've lowered their hand, so there are no members of the public wishing to address the board on this item.
All right, thank you. So with that, I'll open it up to, to our executive director.
I had a few just quick introductory comments on this item.
Sure.
So this item is for the board to elect its officers for the 2024 calendar year. And per the bylaws and requirements of AB 423, the board's requested to elect a chair, a vice chair, and a military liaison. And so the chair serves as the presiding officer for the governing board and performs other functions as directed by the board. And the chair will appoint the members of the Planning and Policy Committee for board approval at the meeting in March of the governing board. The vice chair presides at the governing board meetings in the absence of the chair and performs other duties of the chair in their absence. And then finally, the military liaison must be elected from among the two board of supervisor representatives to the board. The military liaison serves as a liaison to the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Marine Corps, and the U.S. Coast Guard, and reports to the board as necessary to inform the board of any issues with permitting, rules, regulations, and planning issues that have the potential to impact the mission of the military. With that, I'll turn it back over to Chair Bush. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Forbes. So with that, I just want to share with my colleagues and members of the public, it's been an honor to serve as chair this past year. I had an interesting start. I wasn't even here when I was first nominated because, as you guys know, my son just turned a year. So we were in the hospital at the time, and he was having breathing issues, right? So just really highlighted me the importance of the work we do. What we do is for public health. It's, all these meetings are technical and they're wonky, but at the end of the day, these are lives. And I'm so proud of the staff, our organization, how we've grown, and all the future, the funding that's going to come in, all the new programs, all the work, all the innovation. Extremely proud of all of us and what we're doing, and really excited to keep moving forward. So I'm stepping back and returning to as a regular member, but I'm happy to nominate member or our vice chair, Jack Shu, to the chair role. So with that, I'll make a motion to nominate vice chair as chair for APCD.
I'll second the motion.
Jack, did you have comments?
No, I don't have the honor to serve as the chair. We asked public comment.
Yes, we asked for public comment and we didn't see, there's someone that raised their hand and they didn't. So I'm sorry. So I made the motion, and then who seconded it? Okay, Mr. Medina seconded it. So Mr. Shu, any other comments, anything that you want to say?
Thank you very much for the nomination, and I'd be honored to serve in that role. And really, if I'm selected to do so, I hope I do a great job and work with all of you well.
And Jack, we all know he's had a long history in environmental activism, in advocacy and leadership in elected office. So really appreciate all the work you've done for our region, and just really happy to do that. And with that, I think we're ready to, is there any other comments from members, from my colleagues? Okay, with that, we'll call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Bush. Member Burkbeck Garcia,
Yes.
Member Ela Rivera,
Yes.
Member Gloria,
Yes.
Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Member Sanchez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shu,
Aye.
Chair Bush.
Yes.
Thank you. With members Lawson, Reamer, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Awesome, congratulations, Chair Shu. So from a practical standpoint, we are gonna switch, so he can sit right next to the clerk and he can, Mr. Shu, Chair Shu is gonna conduct the rest of the meeting for the rest of the year, so. Thank you.
Yeah.
So next we have to select the vice chair. That's also a very important role. And do I have any discussion or nominate motions from the floor? If no discussion, I'd like to nominate Esther Sanchez, Mayor Sanchez, to be the vice chair.
I'd be honored to serve in that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and vote for the vice chair, Esther Sanchez.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Member Burkett Garcia,
Yes.
member Elo Rivera,
Yes.
member Gloria,
Yes.
member Gomez,
Yes.
member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
member Sanchez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shu,
Aye.
I'm sorry,
Chair.
Chair Shu,
Yeah, thank you.
member Bush.
Yes.
Thank you. With members Lawson, Reamer, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Mayor Sanchez. Next we have to select a military liaison. And to my knowledge, that has to be a county supervisor. So do we have any nominations from the floor?
Do we know who the two will be?
It's member Lawson, Reamer, and Supervisor Vargas. Or member Vargas.
And Vargas, I believe, has been the one for the last few years.
Yes.
Yeah, she was last year's.
I'll make a motion to nominate member Vargas for the military liaison position.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on that? Yeah, if not, we're going to take a vote on Supervisor Vargas continuing as the military liaison.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Member Bush,
Yes.
member Burkett Garcia,
Yes.
member Elo Rivera,
Yes.
member Gloria,
Yes.
member Gomez.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Chair Shu.
Aye.
Thank you. With members Lawson, Reamer, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Right, we move on to E2, appointment of members to the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board. So Madam Clerk, do we have any public testimony on this issue?
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask any members of the public that are joining us via teleconference to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen or by pressing *9 now. For those members of the public that are joining us here in the room, you may approach the podium at this time. Seeing no movement in the chamber or any hands raised online, there's no public testimony on this item.
Great. So today we have applicants to consider for the public member and alternate member seats. The applicants will have 2 minutes to provide a introductory statement, followed by any questions this board may have after interviews and any questions and answers and public comments that will be received. After that, we will go ahead and see if any actions need to be taken. Anyway, any questions or comments from any committee members at this time, as if we want to go ahead and go forward? Seeing none, we can go ahead and proceed. Madam Clerk, can we start the interview process for public members?
Thank you, Chair Shu. We have two members that will be joining us virtually. We will start with, looks like Corey Zuko.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. You may begin. Go ahead and start by stating your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to provide your introductory statement to the board.
Perfect. Hi, Corey Zupo. Nice to meet everybody. I normally don't travel except once a quarter, and this happens to be the week, so I appreciate you letting me do this virtual. For my professional background, I've been doing air permitting and compliance for almost 20 years, but I'm applying as a public member because I live in San Diego. We have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. We live in Northern County. I just actually moved here from Los Angeles. Was really involved in like the hearing process through the APCD, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, because El Segundo has Hyperion and Chevron. So many times they're in front of the hearing board for variances. So I'm very familiar with the process and speaking for public comment. Actually working on the environmental committee as well, the El Segundo Environmental Committee. I was the co-chair. So many times our committee would work from the city of El Segundo when they were providing public comment. I have experience in rulemaking as well, source testing. I used to do emission source testing, so I have familiarity with NOx, VOCs, the different source testing methods, using a portable analyzer or a SIMS, all the different methods, the CARB methods, the California methods. I'm sorry, I already mentioned that the EPA. I have emission factor testing. I also have experience dealing with nonconformances or violations. And ultimately, I'm really passionate about environmental missions because our son is autistic. We don't have any family history. So I do have a strong inclination that it was actually environmental damage from the emissions in Los Angeles during my pregnancy. And so my goal is I just want to be an asset because I understand how air emissions work and how the source testing works and violations, but I'm also passionate about it too and protecting the local community.
Thank you, Corey. Corey, just for clarification, are you applying for the alternate position or the vacant position?
I was applying for the vacant, but I'll also
Great.
take the alternate, whatever's open.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Any comments or questions from board members?
Yes, sir.
Enrique, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It's obvious that you have a lot of experience on the technical side of air quality issues. But this being a public position, I was wondering, can you tell us what your understanding of environmental justice is and how you would how it would inform your decisions on the hearing board?
That's a good question. Sure. I grew up in Riverside, so I'm very familiar with environmental justice because Riverside's right by the 91 freeway, and I had to use an inhaler growing up. So my understanding is environmental justice the most impacted communities. So when you're looking at like a heat map, like in the South Coast, you could see what communities have the most air toxics, most diesel particulate matter, whether it be NOx. It depends on the definition of that community, but ultimately, those are the sensitive receptors that are getting impacted the most. The higher cancer rates, the higher asthma, higher diabetes, anything along those lines, that would have more stringency. So if you're permitting a big project there, for example, and everything goes sideways, ultimately you should treat that with more concern than a project that's out in the middle of nowhere where there are no sensitive receptors or communities that are being heavily impacted. And so it's something that I take very personal, having grown up in Riverside and also living in deep in Los Angeles, being exposed to all those pollutants.
Any other questions or comments from board members? If not, we can go on to the next candidate for the alternate, and then we can take action after hearing both candidates.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Our next candidate or interviewee is Anita Lopez. I would ask that you come off mute. You will have 2 minutes to provide your introductory statement to the board. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Anita Lopez, and I am a Southeast San Diego native. I was raised here in San Diego, My entire life, I am third generation San Diegan and have grown up in Southeast San Diego for a majority of my life. So I'm quite familiar with environmental justice efforts and have been recently, in the last 3 years, focused my public health background onto really looking at climate resiliency and as it relates to the San Diego community, and have spent a number of approximately, I have about 4 different projects within the climate resiliency that I've been currently working on, some of which is in the Port of San Diego, also an environmental justice community, as well as Southeast San Diego through the Urban Collaborative Project and I Am Green partnerships. So I have been doing this type of education and outreach for about 30 years. And I have a great understanding of popular education and building those materials, but I also have a background in public policy, and I have a strong ability to be able to look at equity from a policy and a lived experience lens. And I think that value adds to the board's experience because I'm not approaching all of this expectations of permitting and or review of committees and anything that comes to the board from a singular standpoint. I am well versed in understanding the impacts, particularly as it relates to economic impacts due to redlining. And so I really dedicate a lot of time to looking at how do we do reinvestments within these communities that have been impacted and are experiencing much more climate impacts as a result of these differentiating abilities, differentiation in economic standing. Most importantly, I think that I would definitely bring a lens as to what are some solutions that we can offer our community so that the ones that have historically been impacted are no longer continuing to be impacted in such a significant way. And with that, I would like to offer any questions that you may have about my qualifications and or interests.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Any questions or comments from board members from Ms. Lopez?
Hi, Ms. Lopez, thank you so much for your application. I noticed in the paperwork that you are applying for the alternate seat. Is there a specific reason why alternate, or are you open to either seat?
I'm open to a regular seat. I think there was a bit of confusion on the application process, understanding that there were only alternates available. So I am open, I am equally open to both.
Great, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Lopez, I noticed on your work experience that you are a work in consulting since 2006. Would you be continuing with that consulting work if you were appointed?
Yes, I would. It's my primary source of income and my own business. And so that is essentially at this point what actually drives my income. So my position on the board would definitely be
Do you see any conflict? I guess I'm getting at, do you see the potential for a conflict? I don't know who your clients are.
I certainly don't see it as a conflict, but I am quite well versed in conflict of interest and being able to delineate when there might be a conflict and being able to kind of set aside my personal and or not participate as a reflection. I currently do not have any business contracts that would be a conflict of interest.
And can I ask, you weren't able to make it personally here to today's meeting?
Unfortunately, I was not, as a result, I did not have the correct address. So I showed up to the wrong place and was not able to make it on time, and I valued your time. So I certainly didn't want to show up late, and I chose to show up.
Right, so you went to the headquarters instead of here, right?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Got it. Oh. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions or comments for Ms. Lopez? We have one other candidate who
I don't know if he's here or is showing us late, Jose Gonzalez, he's currently an alternate. Is he present?
Mr. Gonzalez is not present in the conference room, and it does not appear that he is on the teleconference line as well.
At this point, I'm open to whatever the pleasure of the board is with regards to making an appointment first for the primary seat that's open, and then one for the alternate.
Before we do that, I do want to offer for public
I'm
testimony.
sorry.
I don't see any hands raised online, and there isn't any movement in the chamber. However, again, I'll put it out there. If there's anyone that wishes to address the board under public communication on this item, go ahead and raise your hand now or approach the podium at this time. Seeing no hands raised or any movement on the chamber, there is no public testimony on this item.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Sure.
Through the chair, was there any message from Mr. Gonzalez? Whether he was still interested or not interested?
We were told that by him that he would be here today. There was a APCD hearing board meeting this morning that went into the afternoon, and he was present at that. So we have not heard from him since then.
Thank you.
I think we have comments.
Yeah, but just a follow-up to Mr. Gonzalez, because he right now serves as an alternate, right?
Correct.
Is it required for applicants to be present or participate in this interview process? So the fact that he's not here, he's still somebody that we should consider.
I believe so. He's still an
Just wanna
applicant.
make sure.
He just is not present at the moment. But
Okay,
we'll
and it's
do
not
that.
required.
I'm going to defer to council just to ensure that the bylaws don't require that
Okay,
he's present.
yes.
Yeah, so for me, I appreciate both applicants. I really think they have a stellar background and appreciate their input and their eagerness. So I mean, for sure, ready to go forward with their, interested in hearing my colleagues, but yeah, I would move to nominate Miss Corey, who got her last name, Zuko. Yeah, I'd move to nominate her in the vacancy for the regular position.
I'll second.
Another motion.
Yeah, let's.
I'm sorry, I think we were waiting for council to.
Yeah.
That's right, there's 3 applicants.
Yeah, sorry, we reviewed the bylaws.
Let's get the answer from council with regards to members have to be present or not, and then proceed with the motion.
Right, so the bylaws are not clear on that point. It does say that the interview must be conducted. It doesn't actually say that they must be present for the interview. So I think it would be the board's prerogative to consider the application that was submitted. If they want to do that for Mr. Gonzalez. In lieu of an interview.
Thank you. So, but we do have a motion and a second for Corey Zuko to be to fill the open seat.
And so it looks like there's 2 alternate seats and then 1 regular seat, right? So there's 3. So is it, could we take action on 2 of them and then hold off a third, or what are our options here? I'm open to colleagues, so member Medina.
Yes, my understanding is that there are 2 primary positions and 1 alternate. No?
No, there's 1 primary position and
Okay.
there is 1 alternate position. If you were to go ahead and accept member Gonzalez's application and to appoint him to that position, that would then open up an additional vacancy, which would make 2 vacancies under the public member position. But at this time, we would only be seeking a appointment for the public member as well as an alternate for the public member position.
But right now, Mr. Gonzalez is an alternate, right?
He is an alternate, correct?
And the primary position is vacant?
The primary position is vacant, so his primary position
I see.
is vacant.
Got it. And then Ms. Rodriguez is the other public.
Correct, and
So
her alternate is vacant.
Got it. Thank you.
Actual, the roster is in your board packet, if that makes it easier to kind of visualize these vacancies.
Right, so there's two positions and two alternates. One of the public positions is vacant, and one of the alternate positions are vacant. Meanwhile, Mr. Gonzalez actually is seated in the positions. So essentially, if you count him, he's one of the three, but he already has one of the seats. So we could, there's a number of ways we could take this, and we could even table it if we really need to, but in any case, we do have a motion. Any other discussion?
Yeah, under discussion, if we like all three of them, because he already has the experience, he could be the primary or the voting member, and the other two could be the alternates. Correct?
That would be one option.
So I don't know if there's a second yet to the motion.
There was, and you could do a substitute motion, as I understand, unless the bylaws don't allow that.
Right.
There's something different with bylaws.
I would ask us to consider, at least I'll make that motion to make, Mr. Gonzalez, the voting member, and the other two applicants, alternates.
Second that.
So that's we have a substitute motion and a second by Mary Gloria. Consuelo, go ahead.
Thank you. I also have Mr. Gonzalez, I can't picture him in my head, so I don't know if we've interviewed him before. Has he participated in a meeting before for his primary?
So there's currently no public member for his seat. So he is acting in the public member regular position currently and has been attending all of the meetings.
Okay, good. So we know that he's familiar with the board. He's already attended. He knows how that works. That
Correct.
makes me feel more confident about that. Okay, thanks. Yeah, then I will support Vice Chair Sanchez's motion.
Any other discussion on the substitute motion? No, let's go ahead and let me restate the motion and see if we get it correct. Is to have Jose Gonzalez be the primary in this slot. And then the two applicants we just heard, Corey Zuko and Anita Lopez, be alternates. Any other discussion? If not, we're ready for vote on the motion.
Yeah, there's a substitute motion on the floor, and that is what we will be voting on at this time. With that, Member Bush.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So, according to the bylaws, the alternate serves concurrently with the term of the primary member, and both of our primary public members started at different times. So it would be easier for us if we could identify which alternate is filling in for which public member. So maybe it would be easier to bifurcate the vote and just vote for the primary member, and then we'll do another motion for the alternates and identify which alternate is serving which primary member.
So there's a substitute motion on the floor currently. Or sorry, there's a substitute motion on the floor currently, so would you like to go ahead and we can vote on that?
I would ask that we bifurcate that motion that's on the floor and just vote on the primary member, Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay, and I'm fine with that. If that's not considered an amendment, we can move forward with the bifurcation.
Is that okay, amendment to the motion, make a motion and a second?
I agree, and I do have a question for clarification. It does look like the public member position expires this July 2024. Are we able to, is it for 3 years or is it 2 years?
It's for 3 years.
3. Are we not able to consider doing that today?
No, because that was not agendized.
Okay, so we'll be back
Yes.
in July,
Yes.
June or whatever. Okay.
So just for clarification, by updating the motion now, if it's okay with this, second, the person who seconded the motion, we're just voting on, Jose Gonzalez, to be the primary, which term ends, July 16th of this year.
Okay.
It's okay with the mayor. Let's go ahead and vote on that.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Member Bush,
Yes.
Member Beck Garcia,
Yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Member Gloria,
Yes.
Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Chair Shu.
Aye.
With members Lawson, Reamer, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
So for the second part of that motion, we just are dealing with the alternate, the two alternate positions. We have one expiring on July of this year and another one, which actually expires on the, October of 2025. So if we can, I can ask the maker of the motion, if you can identify who would fill each of those two positions, we can vote on that.
Okay, I would suggest that Anita Lopez be the alternate for Mr. Gonzalez, and that Ms.
Ms. Zuko,
Yeah,
for the position that would vacate, go until 10/20/5. 10/20/2025.
Okay.
Right. If that's okay.
Second.
Well.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Right, okay. Any other discussion on that? If not, we can go ahead and vote on that motion for the two alternates.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Member Bush,
Yes.
Member Beck Garcia,
Yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Member Gloria,
Yes.
Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
yes.
Chair Shu.
Aye.
With members Lawson, Reamer, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Let's go on to item number E3. This is the public hearing to receive presentations for the proposed amendments to Rule 40, permit and other fees within the APCD. So we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public testimony? Or you can give instructions to the public testimony, please.
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask those members of the public that are joining us here in the conference room to please approach the podium at this time. If you wish to speak, or at least have a seat in one of the first two chairs here in the front row. Those that are joining us via teleconference, you may dial into the conference room now using the instructions provided on the screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by pressing *9 now. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Are there any public? I'm sorry, we don't have any vote. Let's go ahead with the staff presentation. Mr. Wan.
Thank you very much, Chair Shu and board members. Michael, Deputy Director here at the district, and I'm joined today by Stephanie Nicholas, our Chief of Business Support Services. Item E3 is to receive a presentation and open the public hearing to receive comments on the proposed revisions to Rule 40, permit and other fees. Next slide, please. Rule 40 sets the fees for district permitting and other services such as inspections and source testing related to the implementation of the district's region-wide permitting and regulatory program for stationary sources of air pollution. Stationary sources encompass large industrial facilities such as power plants, smaller commercial establishments such as dry cleaners and gas stations, and asbestos renovation and demolition activities. Next slide, please. Before we get started, I wanted to provide a brief refresher on what this cost recovery effort entails. Cost recovery is a way to recover the full cost for services provided to agencies or individuals. This cost recovery effort is focused on increasing revenues to fully offset the costs related to the district's stationary source permitting, compliance, and source testing programs based on state auditor recommendations. Examples of these services include engineers reviewing permit applications, inspectors performing annual compliance inspections, and chemists conducting source tests. The costs for providing these services account for a little less than 1/3 of the district's $39 million operating budget. There are many other programs implemented by the district to help improve air quality, which are not currently paid for by the fees included in this analysis. This includes, but is not limited to, regional and local air quality monitoring, mobile source compliance inspections, incentive program implementation, and emissions inventory. The funding for these programs comes from other revenue sources, primarily state and federal grants and vehicle registration revenue. Next slide, please. During today's presentation, items being covered include background information on our cost recovery efforts and the fee development process, a review of the cost recovery model updates and analysis for fiscal year 24-25, a summary of the recommendations and updates on cost recovery progress, future fees under consideration, and lastly, the requested actions. I'll now turn it over to Stephanie to walk us through the background information on this year's proposal. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Mike. In July 2020, the state auditor issued their report, which identified that district stationary source fee related expenses were not fully being recovered and included a recommendation to increase fees annually by the maximum percentage allowed until the district's revenue from fees is equal to the full cost of the program. In fiscal year 21-22, the district completed a cost recovery study, which provided a tool for understanding current service levels and the cost and demand for those services. We held public hearings on the fiscal year 21-22 amendments to the district fee rules, which were adopted by the board and implemented in January 2022. In fiscal years 22-23 and 23-24, the district updated the cost recovery analysis to include the latest board adopted budget and staffing levels and workload information for each year. Public hearings were held on the fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24 amendments to district fee rules, which were adopted by the board and implemented in July 2022 and July 2023, respectively. Next slide, please. For the proposal being presented today, this hearing is the first of two scheduled public hearings on proposed amendments to District Rule 40 for fiscal year 24-25. As part of our stakeholder engagement process, a public workshop was held in December 2023 to proactively seek input from stakeholders on proposed updates to Rule 40. Additionally, the district reached out to over 15,000 permit holders, stakeholders, and industry groups through direct mailings in English and Spanish, emails sent to subscribers, and posting of information on the district website about each of these public hearings, including today's hearing. To date, the board's actions on fees have increased the district's overall fee for service cost recovery percentage for its stationary source programs from approximately 66% in fiscal year 21 to 84% in fiscal year 23-24. The proposed amendments being discussed today are projected to increase that overall cost recovery percentage to approximately 93% in fiscal year 24-25. If approved at the March board meeting, amendments to the district's fees would become effective on July 1, 2024. The district remains on track towards maximum cost recovery for services provided in the coming years and will continue to review annual revenue and cost fluctuations as part of each year's cost study to ensure that the appropriate fee adjustments and program efficiencies are implemented to reach and maintain a level where fee-related stationary source program expenses can be fully recovered. Next slide, please. The district uses a comprehensive cost recovery analysis model that has been consistently used over the past several years and is widely accepted approach to cost analysis. First, the district identifies inputs, including the current year adopted budget, to identify all direct, hands-on staff conducting inspections, source tests, reviewing applications, things like that, and indirect support associated with those activities. Indirect things would be like IT, HR, permit processing, things like that. Next, as staff work on projects, they code their time to each permit and record type. We use that time data to determine the time it takes to perform individual services, regardless of how many we perform each year. We analyze that data, including determining if there are outliers that may skew the data and remove those to ensure fairness. While doing those time estimate reviews, we determine if the time data shows varying times to perform the service or if the times are consistent. And we also look at how many of those services we provide over a period of time. This helps us determine if a flat fee or time and material charge is the most appropriate. Then we calculate hourly rates by using salary and benefit costs, as well as services and supply costs. We don't do all of this while working with an external consulting firm to ensure that the methodology is accurate and sound. Next slide, please. The district cost recovery study is analyzed and updated each year with the most recent cost and revenue data, estimates, and projections. It is important to note that each year the cost, revenue, and deficit estimated amounts will change based on the most recent analysis. For the fiscal year 24-25 cost recovery model, the district project team made the following updates and changes. The fiscal year 24-25 study focused on updating the model to include changes reflected in the board adopted fiscal year 23-24 budget, such as salary and benefits, cost changes resulting from updated workload volume, updated revenue projections based on board adopted fee increases, and updated time studies for initial evaluation and source testing services. As part of this Rule 40 review, and in addition to the proposed updates to the fee categories, the district is also proposing to convert 7 fixed fees to time and materials. We found we do so few of these types of applications, and the ones we do have several variables that it makes more sense to do them as time and materials. We are proposing to convert 1 time and material fee related item to a fixed fee to make the fee more predictable. We're consolidating 2 fees related to engines. We're proposing to eliminate 3 fees, which were outdated and site specific. And then we're also proposing some cleanups and clarifications to Rule 40. These proposed updates and changes are reflected in the revised Rule 40 schedule that are posted on the district website as part of this item. Next slide, please. Based on the updates related to staffing, projected cost, estimated workload, as well as changes in fee structures, the annual revenue, cost, and deficit is calculated. The information on this slide is a breakdown of where we are currently at with attaining maximum cost recovery for fee-related services supporting the district's stationary source permitting and regulatory programs. When comparing estimated 23-24 fee-related expenses of $12.3 million with fee-related revenue based on fiscal year 22-23 workload of $10.3 million, the district is under recovering its costs by approximately $1.9 million, or recovering approximately 84% of annual fee-related costs for stationary source program expenses. It is important to stress that the fee categories above represent estimated revenue and costs for a range of services provided under each fee category and are not inclusive of other non-fee related components within a program. The annual cost is only reflective of fee-related support provided for those stationary source permitting and regulatory services and does not encompass the entire program. For example, the district has a mobile source inspection unit whose cost is not included in this calculation as that cost is not permit or fee related. Next slide, please. The California Health and Safety Code states that the district has the ability to increase individual fees for service for permit to operate and authority to construct permits, as long as the total revenue for those fee categories does not exceed 15% in a single fiscal year. The district has traditionally followed this health and safety code guidance by applying it to application fees, renewal fees, time and material, and processing fee categories, as those fees fall under the permit to operate and authority to construct permit categories. As such, district staff propose implementation of fiscal year 24-25 cost recovery scenario, which applies a maximum 15% increase to application, source testing, time and materials, and administrative processing fees, which is consistent with the governing board's direction on fee increases that were adopted for fiscal years 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24, with 2 key exceptions. The first exception is related to asbestos fees. For the last 3 years, the board has adopted a 25% increase twice and a 15% increase last year related to asbestos fees. Due to that strategy, this year the board only needs to increase some asbestos fees by up to 10% in order to achieve maximum cost recovery in this category. Therefore, for this category, it is recommended that the fees are only increased by a maximum of 10%. The second exception is related to hearing board fees. There are no revisions proposed to Rule 42 hearing board fees at this time. Increasing these fees at the previously adopted rate of 25% may result in the hearing board fees becoming cost prohibitive to hearing board petitioners and small businesses without having a significant revenue impact upon the district, since these fees comprise such a small amount, roughly $10,000 of revenue and costs for the district. Under the recommended fee increase, the district would be projected to increase its estimated overall fee for service cost recovery for its stationary source permitting and regulatory programs from 84% to approximately 93%. Next slide, please. This slide provides a more detailed breakdown of proposed increases by fee category. As you can see, the range of proposed changes varies by fee type based on various factors, including the cost to perform the specific services included in each category and how close those individual fees are to attaining maximum cost recovery for that service. The detailed proposed increases include an increase ranging from 6 to 15% in initial application fees, 8 to 15% in renewal fees, 2 to 15% in source testing fees, and 8 to 10% in asbestos fees. No fee changes to the hearing board are being proposed, and increases ranging from 8 to 15% in time and materials and 10 to 15% in permit processing fees. If adopted at March's hearing, the proposed amendments would become effective on July 1, 2024, which will allow for the testing of new fees, revised invoicing, and continued outreach to stakeholders prior to implementation. Next slide, please. The recommendations allow the district to focus on increasing revenues across all fee categories consistent with the previous year's increase and generate additional revenue to continue to increase its fee-for-service cost recovery. Under the recommended fee increase, the district would be projected to increase its estimated fee revenue by approximately $1.2 million and decrease its projected deficit from $1.9 million to approximately $800,000. The key advantages to this recommendation is that it is consistent with previous board adopted practices. It enables the district to continue its movement toward increasing cost recovery and applies fee increases consistently across the categories. Next slide, please. When the district first started this study process in 2021, the overall fee for service cost recovery for stationary source permitting and regulatory activities was calculated at approximately 66%. As noted previously, the board's actions on fees have increased the district's estimated overall fee for service cost recovery percentage for its stationary source programs to approximately 84%. This is the district's fourth year of conducting the study and update, and these proposed fiscal year 24-25 updates are projected to increase that overall cost recovery percentage to approximately 95%. The original study had estimated that it would take the district more than 5 years to get to maximum cost recovery. And as such, the district is on track towards achieving maximum fee-related cost recovery. Cost recovery percentages will fluctuate from year to year based on a variety of factors, such as negotiated salary and benefit increases, staffing vacancy rates, changes in program workload volume, and the cost of services and supplies needed to perform stationary source-related activities. The cost recovery progress the district has made has also resulted in increased revenue as recommended by the 2020 state audit. With each round of study, we use the information to try to project what we think our revenue will be, and we've looked back at the actual revenues received for the cost recovery categories and compared that to what the study projected since fiscal year 21-22. Our actual stationary source fee-related revenues have increased by nearly $2 million in the first 2 years of this effort as we have increased our fees, and is tracking closely with the first 2 years of the cost recovery study projections. I'll hand it back to Mike now for the rest of the presentation, including discussing future fee concepts not included in this year's proposed cost recovery package. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Stephanie. As mentioned previously, the district's cost recovery efforts to date have focused on services related to the district's stationary source permitting, compliance, and source testing programs based on those state auditor recommendations. Looking ahead, the district will be reviewing additional service areas to determine if new fees may be appropriate to recover costs associated with services provided for other programs. For example, the district is currently evaluating options on how to recover costs to prepare emissions inventories. In response to state mandates, the district is required to greatly expand both the number of stationary sources and the number and type of pollutants for which it conducts annual emissions inventory, which is going to result in additional costs to implement that program. Over the next few months, district staff will be analyzing time data associated with emissions inventory services while accounting for efficiencies gained through continued implementation of an electronic data submittal system to collect and process the required data electronically. This information will help us develop a fair and reasonable fee structure to ensure a sustainable revenue source is in place to recover the increasing cost of these services. We plan to hold a public workshop in the spring of 2024 to review this proposal and receive feedback in advance of bringing any new proposal to the governing board for potential adoption in time for implementation starting in fiscal year 25-26. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, today's recommended actions are to open a public hearing on the proposed amendments to Rule 40 and direct the Air Pollution Control Officer to return to the board at our next meeting on March 14th to consider the proposed amendments to Rule 40. With that, it concludes today's presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any public? Oh, do we have any public comments, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask once again if there are any members of the public online that wish to address the board on this item to please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public that wish to address. Okay, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Once you conclude your comments, can you please fill out a speaker slip and submit that? Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jamie Leonardi and I'm a director with Superior Abatement Services. We are an asbestos and lead remediation company servicing all of Southern California, but we are located here in San Diego's home base. I have my operations director with me here, Robert Nieto, as well. We just wanted to come and kind of express some of our opinion on the proposed increased rates to the asbestos portion of the fees. As you mentioned in your presentation, over the last few years, you have substantially increased those fees. I believe you mentioned 25% and 15%. Is that correct? Yeah. Right. So my main job at Superior is to go out into the public and educate them on ways to stay into compliance and make sure they're handling their asbestos projects properly to ensure that we follow all APCD, OSHA, and EPA guidelines that are needed. So I come out and I actually talk about APCD 1206 on a daily basis to everyone, making sure they understand how it works and how much trouble they could be in if they don't. With that comes the explanation of why they're having to pay such expensive fees back to the county for us to just come and do this demolition. Not only are they paying the fee for us to pay back to APCD, but also they're having to pay for our services as well. This creates a huge disincentive to our clients to handle these projects properly. My understanding is APCD's main goal is to make sure that the public is protected from potential air pollutants, including asbestos, which is considered a carcinogen. We come into those clients, we explain to them how expensive these fees are, and it just creates this disincentive for them to have their handyman or their maintenance technician, or to just let their tenant do whatever they would like in these facilities. When I have to go back to them again this year and explain why our fees are increasing, it's not going to be well received. So the goal with these fee increases is to potentially create more of a disincentive for them to handle these projects properly. That is what's going to happen here. They'll go back to their maintenance techs, they'll allow them to just do the demolition, do the removal themselves without using properly certified companies like ourselves.
Yes. Good afternoon, my name is Robert. The problem that we see with these fees is there's a lot of practitioners out there that are performing this abatement work and not complying. So when we're out there, we're trying to be competitive, or we're trying to pride ourselves in being the company that does the right thing and does it the right way. We end up having higher fees incurred with that because we're having to tack on our APCD fees and whatnot. So when we come into a small residential project, now if we're talking about a large commercial building, it's not a big deal. The money's there, the guys understand what they have to pay. It's the small Joe homeowners that have a very small bathroom project or small remodel that should be fairly low price, low cost, or an acoustic spray that they feel like, well, I can do my own popcorn ceiling. We say, stop, you cannot. You need us and you need to pay the city, and here's what you have to do. And they say, well, this guy over here didn't mention anything about air pollution control. So their lack of knowledge is causing us more hardship on trying to get the jobs. So I would like APCD, if they could, make a little bit more of an effort towards the residential population, as well as property managers, in knowing that this is compliance. You guys fall under this. You guys have to do this. I know there's bad eggs out there that are gonna do this work without following the rules, but you have to follow these rules. So this way it's more of a level playing field instead of a disincentive for these guys, as well as us, that are trying to do the right thing and do it the right way. We're losing the work. So just wanted to see if you guys can get a little bit more on the educational side That's what we're asking.
More community outreach, I think would be super beneficial.
I'm sorry, your time is concluded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Paulo, did you want to address the board? Okay, that concludes public testimony.
I have a question. What was the company name that the speakers are representing?
Superior abatement.
Thank you.
We have one additional public speaker, Cesar Javier. And ask that you approach the podium at this time. You can begin by stating your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes and your time will be displayed on the screen.
I am volunteering to participate and hopefully help my county, my city, our county. We have been our residents for 24 years. And from our experience in the University of Life, we learned in our old school that the agency of the government has budget, and we are supposed to exhaust that to deliver the public goods. Number two, we want to reconcile science with the costing or how much fee to address, especially the inventory of toxicity, air pollutants in our air. We're just lucky that we are behind this Pacific Ocean for clean air. We ask you to reconcile science in our decision making. How much bad air do we have to breathe and how much it costs? How much does a business who gets the permit to pay if only to pollute our air? And third, please let the public know the ABC of this. I myself need to know the meaning of this presentation, and we appreciate this attendance. This is our first time here, and we appreciate the intelligence of the board members because this is already science. We have to fight air pollution now. We should not waste time. Our children needs, let's do it now. Honorable Mayor from our great city, the finest city, our District 9 Councilor, who received money from SDGA, and hopefully they will lobby for the goodness, health, and safety of our District 9 right there. Come and visit us. We're helping our city to be clean and safe. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony. Actually, is there anyone else in the room that wishes to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement here in the conference room, that concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues? Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you very much. To refresh my memory, please, staff, do we have the separate fees for residential versus business? And what portion of it is residential? Is it mostly?
In regards to asbestos specifically,
Yeah.
the fees are structured based on square footage and type of operation. Currently, our Rule 1206 is only applicable to facilities with 4 or greater units. So, anything that's less than 4 units would not be subject to the requirements of the rule or the fees associated in Rule 40. One of the things that we are looking at as part of the Portside Community Emission Reductions Plan is, looking at Rule 1206, which is our asbestos regulation rule, to see if there are opportunities for adjustments there, as well as looking at enhanced outreach across the board. So currently, the fees are based on square footage and only subject to facilities with from a residential perspective, only subject to facilities with 4 or greater units.
Yeah, I certainly want to encourage residential to do the right, abide by the right process and be educated and ensure that professionals handle that situation and not be exposed to the dangers of asbestos especially.
Yes, I think that's definitely something that we're working on, and regardless of whether we make any formal amendments to our asbestos rule, I think the public outreach component, and enhancing that will be something to move forward with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I appreciate the public testimony and to understand, I mean, it's pretty clear, but just to confirm, the action today is not actually assessing the fees, but it's basically starting the process, at which point you'll come back and at least starting to schedule 2 months from now for a final action. I heard the answer to Mayor Sanchez's question in terms of how residential is impacted. Anything below 4 units is not within our purview, therefore there's no these fees don't apply to that. So a single family homeowner doing a minor construction project in their home would not require the fee nor be under the purview of our district. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
Unless they were to create a public nuisance. Pardon me, Mayor Gloria, but yes.
That makes sense. I heard the speakers in the plea for education, which I get that part of it, but I think actually it's more about a plea around enforcement because there are folks who are I know we're all shocked when people do work that's not unpermitted. Can you speak to what the district does to try and address that concern? Because obviously we do want people to follow the rules. We do want to have a level playing field for the work that is subject to these fees.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that. So we do have a very active enforcement program around asbestos. And as Mike mentioned, we can certainly do more outreach in terms of the requirements of our rules. But we have a very vigorous enforcement program. If there is for example, a single family home where we receive a complaint and there's a potential for public nuisance, we will go out and inspect that as well. But we do routinely inspect the notices that we get for asbestos. This is why the cost of the fee is there, is not that they require a permit from us, but they provide us a notice that they're going to be doing that work. Our inspectors will go out and make sure that it's being done appropriately. And then if it is not being done appropriately, we will take very significant enforcement action and try to ensure that level playing field that the commenter was talking about in the form of civil penalties or other types of actions to enforce our rule.
And it's sort of full circle, right? You need the fees in order to pay for the enforcement that gets the level playing field. So I get that component of it. I'd be curious to know more about what the district does in that regard, in terms of metrics of how many enforcement actions you take, how many investigations you do, how many investigations the contractors are not playing by the rules. I think from an education perspective, that would be helpful, certainly for folks that are working in this space, to be able to say, hey, you could go with the other guy, the chances of you getting enforced upon are significant, the civil penalties are possible, and particularly within the industry as that work gets out. Maybe a lot of this work is happening, I'm ignorant of it, and maybe other board members are here, but particularly in the context of fees, which all of us are concerned about what things cost around here these days. Reminder that government doesn't get off free. When your gas goes up, ours does too, right? I mean, we have vehicles that we have to pay for, so I mean, we're all in the same boat, which often drives the fee issue, but understanding the nature of why these fees are being created, what we're getting back, and how we can explain why they're necessary. I think I know why, but I certainly want to be a great advocate for the district to explain why this action is being taken. The last thing I would say is that the March hearing probably provides some level of flexibility to the board. I'm assuming, this is all within the context of Prop 218. Is that true? I mean, how rigid are our fees?
Prop 26, I believe, is one of the major limiters for our fees, okay. As well as other prescribed limitations on the health and safety code.
I'll just say that in my experience, obviously the city sets a number of fees ourselves, and there is the fairness amongst payers, right, and the true cost and what have you. But I've always been struck by the level of flexibility that can often be involved in how cost recoverable a fee is or isn't, how it's apportioned to payers based on size or impact. And I'm just curious to know what flexibility we may or may not have come March. You're performing this work, you're doing setting a hearing. I assume today will go, the board will approve to allow you to do this work, but when it comes back, what kind of flexibility does the board have?
I think on the top end, there are some limitations on how far we can go with certain fee categories, that 15% limitation. In terms of adjustments to fees, at a lower rate. Certainly that's up to the board's purview if there's some decision making on, wanting to look at, less of a level of cost recovery. The impacts there would mean less revenue and, that us maybe being, taking a little bit longer to reach that cost recovery, threshold that the auditor had suggested for us. That's the other component here, is that auditor recommendation for us to try to increase fees to the maximum level applicable until we get to maximum cost recovery. So, but again, the board can make direction to take a different path if we so choose. We just can't go higher than that 15% in a couple of those categories.
Understood. Well, I look forward to that conversation, and I definitely trust our staff to understand the complexities of the situation, the desire to be fair, and the context in which this conversation is happening with regard to overall costs. This is why we're doing some of this work, right? There's also some of the folks who are trying to do the right thing, which I'm extremely sympathetic to. I think I certainly feel better knowing that we are holding those who are not doing the right thing accountable, and that certainly would inform my willingness to support, additional the increase that I understand we're going to have to do. I just want to understand in the broader context of how that's applying to those who may be skirting these rules, because we know it happens, and I think we should be in the business of preventing that as much as we possibly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Enrique?
Yes, thank you, Chair. A question, and if you don't have an answer today, maybe by the next time. But I was just curious if you have seen any change, any material change, or you're going to drop in the number of applicants to renewals, to asbestos fees, and the TNM, which is those are the three largest revenue categories since we started the cost recovery efforts.
Yeah, so we have looked at that to a certain extent. We have seen some slight decreases in initial applications for permits. That does tend to fluctuate annually on a regular basis, so it's hard to say whether or not that's associated with the changes we made over the fees in the last few years. Similarly, we've seen a little bit of a dip in renewal fees, so those permits, those year-to-year permits. We've actually seen a pretty significant increase in the volume on the asbestos side, in terms of the number of notifications. And then on the TNM component, that's sort of tied closely with application fees, because some of our applications are fixed fees, and then a number of our initial permit applications are based on TNM, and so that's been relatively tracking closely with those initial application numbers. So just a little bit of a dip in those new permit applications coming in.
Okay, thank you. And just for purposes of taking us a little bit off the hook, OSHA also has asbestos regulations that remediators have to have, and there's notice that have to be posted. So there's basically a patchwork of regulations that other agencies, in addition to the air district, have to comply with and enforce, in addition to for asbestos, in addition to the air district. I would. This is not I will make the motion then that we open a public hearing.
Yeah, I believe the public hearing is open. Any other comments from my colleagues?
Just to clarify, Member Medina, was your motion to approve the staff recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, so.
I'll second that.
Right, and the staff recommendation is the Director Air Pollution Control District Officer to return to the governing board on March 14th of 2024 to consider adoption of the proposed amendments to Rule 40. That's the permit and order fees to become effective in July 1st of 2024. So that'll be the action.
Just a point of clarification, it's actually a two-part recommendation. The first is to open the public hearing, and then the second would be to come back in March.
Do we need two motions to do that?
No, just one motion.
I believe I opened the public meeting at the beginning of the item.
Beginning,
Oh, you did, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
and we already did the presentation.
So this is a little bit an unusual procedure where the health and safety code requires that so it's not actually this hearing, it's more just the hearing on the fee changes itself. It's a separate action and it continues until you meet again next month. So we do need a motion on the specific language that's here.
There's, the recommendations are on the screen, so we're going to be adopting the recommended action,
Correct.
staff's recommended action. That's the motion that's currently on the floor.
Yes.
Any other discussion or Councilman Bush?
Yes, a question for staff. So, just so I'm clear, so moving forward, staff is gonna continue to refine this, taking in public input as well. So, like the input, and I appreciate the speakers that came, from the, consulting business, I think it is, that, does asbestos. So that's something that I would like to see what we can do to work with them. What are the unintended consequences of some of these, rules or the fee increases? Because if, you know, in the end, they, it's a challenge we have to just be aware of. If the amount we're increasing causes a drop in the amount of people participating, like that's something I want to know about. I don't know how you would, you know, define or project or estimate that, but it is a concern, and definitely would like the folks who spoke and just other consultants, if you guys can take that input into consideration when you're bringing this back, so that we can, and encourage those folks to come to please talk to our staff and please work with our staff on that. So want to hear your input and really appreciate you coming to speak, but yeah, I support this moving forward.
Any other discussions? So the motion is for staff recommendations includes both 1 and 2.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Member Burkett Garcia,
Yes.
Member Bush,
Yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Member Gloria,
Yes.
Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Chair Shu.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with, with members Lawson, Reamer, and Vargas absent. That motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Next, we'll move on to E4, that's the International Border Community Emissions Reduction Program. So Madam Clerk, could you give us instructions on public testimony?
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask members of the public that have requested to speak on this item that are here in the conference room to please have a seat in the front row behind the podium at this time. Those members that are of the public that are joining us via teleconference, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that are provided on your screen. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen or by pressing *9 now. All public testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
Thank you. Let's have the staff presentation by Deputy Director Domingo Cal.
Good afternoon, Chair Shu, members of the board, and members of the public. I'm Domingo Cal, Deputy Director, and with me is Monique Lopez, Program Coordinator in the Office of Environmental Justice, or Office of EJ. We are excited to bring to you the International Border Communities Emissions Reduction Program, or CERP. Today's presentation will provide a brief background on the Community Air Protection Program, the participatory planning process for the CERP, an overview of community priorities and strategies, and a review of key elements for successful implementation of this program. This item seeks your approval of the International Borders Community CERP, along with other actions that will support its implementation. I will now turn it over to Monique to continue the presentation. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Domingo, and congratulations, Chair Shu and Vice Chair Sanchez. Good afternoon, members of the board. Thank you for your attention this afternoon. In response to Assembly Bill 617, the California Air Resources Board established the Community Air Protection Program, also known as CAP. The CAP focuses on reducing exposure to air pollutants in the most impacted communities in the state. During the first selection round, the environmental justice communities of Portside, which include Sherman Heights, Logan Heights, Barrio Logan, and West National City, were selected to participate. While only the Portside community was selected in San Diego at that time, APCD also initiated engagement in the border community, and a nomination for the border communities was submitted in 2018 to be selected for this program. On February 2022, the San Diego International Border Community, which includes San Isidro and East Otay Mesa, was selected to participate in the program. For nearly 2 years, APCD has been working with the International Border Community Steering Committee. Next slide, please. Adjacent to Tijuana, Mexico, and located on unceded community territory,
San Diego and Otay Mesa East are vibrant and culturally rich tri-national communities with art, music, amazing food, commerce, and people flowing back and forth across the border. Due to the planning and infrastructure that has favored passenger vehicles and unsustainable commerce activities, this cross-border exchange comes at a cost to the environmental health of the communities on both sides of the border. There are very significant socioeconomic indicators such as poverty, access to healthcare, and many others that limit the community's ability to protect themselves from pollution exposure and prevent its health impacts. Next slide, please. There are two key components of the Community Air Protection Program, also known as CAP. One is the Community Air Monitoring Plan, also known as CAMP, and the Community Emission Reduction Program, CERP, which you'll hear a lot about today. First, the CAMP was co-developed by the International Border Community Steering Committee, which I'll refer to in this presentation as IBCSC, and completed in the spring of 2023. Community air monitoring conducted as part of AB 617 plays a key role in supporting actions to understand current air quality and measure the success of the Community Emission Reduction Program over time. While the CAMP focuses on monitoring air quality, the Community Emission Reduction Program, also known as CERP, is a document that sets community goals and strategies to reduce air pollution and emissions. Today, we'll focus on the CERP. Next slide, please. All right. The development of a CERP requires a community-led process. One of the ways in which APCD has ensured a community-led process is through the development of a community steering committee. The International Border Steering Committee, IBCSC, has been meeting monthly since April of 2022 and serves as a liaison between APCD, the California Air Resources Board, and the community. IBCSC is a diverse steering committee consisting of residents, business owners, workers, nonprofit organizations, public agencies, medical experts, and folks in academia. Most of the committee members are residents of the border communities. APCD relies upon IBCSC to increase its understanding of the community, identify community needs and concerns, inform the selection of potential air monitoring site locations, connect with relevant community and public agency contacts as well. The IBCSC has been crucial for the CERP co-development and will be an important partner in CERP implementation. The CERP was not only co-developed by the IBCSC, but it gained formal unanimous approval last month. Next slide, please. There are 5 key areas that the IBCSC identified as community priorities. Next. First is reducing exposure to emissions from passenger vehicles at the border and throughout the community. San Ysidro has more passenger vehicle volume traveling on the streets and freeways than anywhere else in the state of California. Next. Second, reducing emissions and emission exposure from heavy-duty trucks traveling to and from warehouses in Otay Mesa and beyond to protect the health of people living along the truck routes and on both sides of the border. So here's a pop quiz for you. How many trucks on average monthly, heavy-duty trucks on average monthly, cross Otay Mesa into Otay Mesa? I have no prizes.
A lot.
A lot. So for the, according to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, when I pulled this data, for May of 2023, it was about 92,000 heavy duty trucks, right?
Right.
Next. So a lot. Third, reducing emissions and odor from sources in Tijuana, such as sewage in the Tijuana River, burning of trash, and industrial related activities. Next. Fourth is reducing emissions from Border Patrol activity on the west side of San Ysidro. So there's a lot of dust that kicks up from ATVs and trucks from Border Patrol operations. Also, there's a train that goes through the heart of San Ysidro as well. And there's a couple of small municipal airports on the US side, but then we also have an international airport on the Tijuana side as well. Next. And last and certainly not least is in the short term and long term, doing everything possible to protect children, elderly, chronically ill, and other groups that are vulnerable to air pollution exposure. Next slide, please. At the heart of the Community Emission Reduction Program, CERP, are the actionable strategies co-developed by the IBCSC. Prior to the development of these strategies, IBCSC identified priority air quality issues their community is facing, which were those issues I talked about in the last slide. Hence, each of these strategies seeks to address these community identified priorities. These strategies emerged through a series of APCD facilitated workshops, which took place during virtual and in-person IBCSC meetings from April of 2022 to December of this past year. Some of these strategies reflect original ideas from the committee and community members. Others are inspired from CERP strategies that have been developed by the Portside CSC and other communities throughout the state. APCD also worked with public agency partners such as the City of San Diego, the San Diego Association of Government, SANDAG, and Caltrans to review and identify relevant strategies documented in previous planning efforts that could significantly reduce emissions from the key priority areas that the IBCSC identified. These previous planning efforts include the Baja California Border Master Plan, San Diego and Imperial County Sustainable Freight Implementation Strategy, the Zero Emission Freight Transition White Paper from SANDAG, and also the 2021 SANDAG Regional Transportation Plan. Regardless of the strategy's origin and also the action's origin, all of these strategies in the CERP were co-developed, reviewed, and supported by the IBCSC. The IBCSC developed overall 34 strategies and 128 associated actions to address their priorities. Next slide, please. All right, so you ready to hear all 128? I am just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, so IBCSC developed a variety of strategies. Given the depth and quantity of these strategies, we're not going to be able to go over each one in depth, but happy to do so with folks who are interested one-on-one. However, we'll highlight different types of strategies that are included in the CERP and provide some example for each different type. So just to give you a sampling of what is included in the CERP. First, in terms of policy and planning advocacy, include strategies such as improving existing rail service, for example, Blue Line improvements to enhance accessibility and travel times and speed, capacities and frequencies. Also within this, as well as implementing new rail service such as the Purple Line to connect with the border, National City, City Heights, Kearny Mesa, and all the way up to Sorrento Mesa as well. Second, in terms of funding advocacy, work with the City of San Diego to pursue grant funding opportunities to fund urban greening projects such as street trees and natural vegetative barriers between sensitive areas such as parks and schools and pollution sources such as freeways. Third, infrastructure and technology. One of the strategies or actions included in this is partnering with the California Air Resources Board, Caltrans, CHP to install stationary remote sensing emissions and license plate reading technologies that will measure emissions of mobile heavy duty vehicles. Vehicles identified as high emitters can receive a notice to correct which truck owners to provide CARB evidence with compliance, and then failure to respond or demonstrate compliance can lead to potentially registration holds. Fourth, in terms of research, is partnering with universities to perform air quality study on toxins and pollution coming from environmental odors, for example, from the Tijuana River, and do this in collaboration with the EPA and Mexican public agencies. Fifth, in terms of outreach and education and compliance, this can look like, or one of the strategies includes increasing community outreach and awareness about APCD's air quality complaint process through workshop trainings, community events, place-based social media, etc. And 6 is rule updates and development. One of the strategies that's supported by the IBCSC as part of the SERP includes the development of an indirect source rule and or other enforceable indirect source control strategies to reduce emissions from heavy duty vehicles or heavy duty trucks in Otay Mesa and San Isidro. And lastly, in terms of incentives, one of the strategies includes collaborating with school districts to pursue funding for air filtration systems, zero emission buses, urban greening projects, and charging stations. Next slide. Right. To ensure the successful implementation of the strategies developed by the IBCSC, there are 3 key structural elements that must be considered and addressed. First is leveraging APCD's relationships is probably one of the most important because many of the strategies identified will require partnership of multi-government agencies and stakeholders because the actions are outside of APCD's regulatory authority. Many of the strategies and actions in some way involve the city of San Diego, SANDAG, and Caltrans. And these 3 agencies have been active public agency partners, which we thank them for being at the table every single meeting. And we're part of the co-development of the SERP, and we're also supportive of the strategies and actions as well. Second, for some of the actions within APCD's regulatory authority, APCD currently does not have the necessary capacity to implement the SERP to its fullest potential. Therefore, actions to build the capacity of APCD will be critical to the SERP's fullest implementation. In addition, state funding to implement the Community Air Protection Program overall has remained stagnant at the state level despite program expansion. Additionally, projected state budget shortfalls may impact this program in the future, so APCD will continue to seek opportunities to advocate for additional funding for this program. And third, there is a unique opportunity to improve relationships and transparency with the community through a deep democratic process of participatory budgeting with APCD incentive funding. The SERP process is much more than just emission reductions. It provides a space to build relationships, to repair and address past and present harms, and connects directly with community to not only co-identify priority issues and strategies, but also include community in the co-implementation as well. Next slide, please. Before I share the requested actions to be taken by the board today, I will read a poem that was collectively written by the IBCSC members to share their vision for what kind of future we are all collectively working towards. Next. We imagine an international border community in 2035, where we can be in any neighborhood in San Isidro and Otay Mesa and breathe clean air, where the movement of goods occurs in a healthy and safe manner with a more sustainable truck fleet and technologies that reduce air pollution and improve cross-border efficiencies, where there are abundant transit options and biking and walking infrastructure is prioritized on both sides of the border so that we are less dependent on cars, where most people do not cross the border by car, but cross both ways either on foot or transit in 20 minutes or less, where there is collaboration on the implementation of strategies with communities, governmental agencies on both sides of the border, where there is abundant green space with trees lining key walking corridors and separating schools, parks, community centers, and clinics from air pollution sources. And in places where trees cannot be planted, other innovations are used, such as city trees that can clean the air. Where the reliance on cars is reduced because everyone is in walking distance of important amenities, such as healthy foods, parks, schools, transit hubs, and medical facilities, where the flow of car traffic is redirected away from schools, homes, and parks, where the fast and efficient regional transportation connection with the Purple Line trolley and Express Blue Line trolley, where the Tijuana River is a healthy place for plant life, animals, and humans, where the quality of life for the west side of San Isidro residents improves through clean smelling air, and where water quality is at healthy levels at South Bay beaches, and where we can access the water safely. Where air purifiers are in every home with sensitive populations and in schools, community centers, and health clinics, Industry practices and impacts in San Ysidro and Otay Mesa are the same as in the most affluent communities in the region, where the San Ysidro and Otay Mesa are no longer in the Calambarro screen top 25th percentile of communities in the state facing environmental injustices. We imagine 2035. Next slide. So today, we're encouraging you all to join in with the IBCSC in taking a step to help make their vision a reality. As mentioned previously, the SERP, a community-led process, was approved by IBCSC last month. Next steps in the process require your board's approval prior to CARB's review and approval. So today's action, or today's requested action includes the following. One is to find the proposed SERP is exempt from CEQA. Two, to approve the International Border SERP and direct APCD to submit the SERP to the California Air Resources Board for approval. Three, authorize APCD to work with IBCSC and partner agencies to update the SERP as necessary to reflect potential changes. Four, authorize APCD to advocate for action, strategies, and goals identified in the SERP. And fifth, authorize APCD to apply for and receive grant funding that supports the implementation of strategies and actions in the SERP. Next slide, please. So this concludes our presentation, and we are available and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We have 3 public speakers on this item, but we are getting close to the time that we'd like to.
Oh, excuse me, now.
So,
Thank you. It's okay.
so I'm going to ask the 3 public speakers to please, if you don't have to use the whole time, please don't, so we can move quickly through each item or the next item as well as conclude this item. So, Madam Clerk, please go ahead and call the 3 public speakers.
Thank you, Chair Shu. I will be calling speakers. Actually, we have 2 requests to speak at this time, 3. I would ask Alejandro Amador to please approach the podium at this time. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and I will ensure that there is a timer on the screen that you can follow along with to manage your time. Begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Alejandro Amador. I serve as the Environmental Programs Manager at Casa Familiar, a nonprofit organization with over 50 years of dedicated service in the San Ysidro community and the broader South Bay region. Our mission is rooted in enhancing quality of life for people living in underserved and underrepresented communities. I'm here today to speak in support of the approval of the Community Emissions Reduction Program, or SERP, that community residents, stakeholders, and APCD staff co-developed to address the consistently elevated pollution levels in the border region. The international community is subjected with high levels of pollution from both sides of the border, and throughout these past 2 years, the CSC has diligently prioritized concerns related to monitoring and interventions. As a result, the SERP incorporates a multitude of strategies aimed at addressing the diverse sources of air pollution impacting the daily lives and health of our residents. For the past 5 years, I have engaged, supported, organized, and elevated the community members to advocate for environmental justice and clean air in San Diego. I stand here proud of my community as we take a crucial step towards creating tangible change. Approving the SERP marks the initial stride towards systematic change, shaping programs, policies, and planning to propel clean air initiatives. This, in turn, will significantly enhance the health and quality of life of tens of thousands of residents. It underscores our commitment to prioritizing human health over profit and allow the, so it will allow APCD to play a pivotal role in the sustainable development of our community. Not to mention that this program will also help the city and county to meet their greenhouse emission goals for coming years. Through the implementation of SERP, we now possess concrete, tangible steps so we're realizing a sustainable border community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nicholas Paul. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, and please use the timer that is on the screen to self-regulate your time. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Nicolas Paul with the Environmental Health Coalition. Good afternoon, hearing board members, staff. Congratulations, Chairman Chu and Vice Chair Esther Sanchez. Looking forward to working with you all in the coming year. Just want to take a quick moment to express our support to our compañeros at Casa Familiar and to the staff of APCD. EHC participated in several of the SERP development workshops that were held on a monthly basis. And even had some members from our colleagues in Tijuana participate from EHC's Chilpancingo branch. The reason why I say that, I think the way we craft policy matters, right? And the intentionality, I'm not sure if that's even a word, but how intentional APCD staff and everyone else that was involved in crafting this document can be felt at every single one of those meetings. Again, I just wanted to stand up and express our support of the staff recommendations. There is a lot of great points on this SERP that are going to be instrumental in improving air quality for the region. Monique mentioned a lot of points about addressing passenger vehicle pollution, addressing pollution from warehouses in Otay Mesa, that again has regional impacts. And so our EHC, the Portside CSC, as a Portside CSC member, we support this SERP, and we're gonna do everything we can to support in seeing these points implemented in the next several years. So thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Cesar Javier. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time using the timer that is on the screen. You can begin by stating your name for the record.
I and my wife are ardent learners. And borders are always been a sensitive issue in many aspects. Security is one. And what they have been discussing, emission, toxicity, air pollution, the air we breathe is bad. Thank you for your effort. This is not for us, but for our children's children. Let us go and reach our students in our schools. Teach them. Maybe one of the compliance friends of mine, Beans, Jim, and the lady Lebanese. Come, let's see the border. Politicians, sir, ma'am, let's go. We will join you. This is an all-out effort. Pardon my style. I've been a substitute teacher for 2 years. Sweetwater and San Diego Unified School. And my dean in my department, education, tells you better teach in the elementary because they have no fault yet or violation committed in the society. They are fresh. Go there and you will succeed. No, I joined the construction industry. Why? Because we are building our future cities. And this is an issue which we would like to recommend an all-out war. I said borders is a critical line in any aspect because both sides, the negative and the positive, are in collusion or in collision to the detriment of the population on both sides. Next, pardon me, I'll go direct to the point. The city, according to SDGE, power kick, because we are going to change SDGE to non-profit organization. So be it. And according to them, the city will stop the use of gas in our homes and consumers industry. Thank God, because our children are getting asthma. It's good if it's barbecue. So I hope 2037, respectable, honorable mayor, is that correct? 2037, no more gas in our homes. I'm sorry, I just heard it, so I am amplifying it. Number 3, it looks like we are going to electric. We will support electric. We have been riding the trolley and we enjoy it.
Mr. Javier, I would ask that you conclude your comments, your time is
And
ended.
thank you for this opportunity. I just meant to learn and teach. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Do we have a comment or questions from my colleagues? Enrique.
I just thank you for a great presentation and thank you, Domingo, for all your efforts on getting the IPCSC done. One question, it was clear from the presentation from priorities of the community that I think 4 of the 5 areas are regarding mobile sources, which we do not regulate. And so it's great that we are building a network and we're reaching out to other agencies. But my question is, there was an item of building capacity, and I was curious to know what is the capacity that APCD needs in order to better implement this plan? And related to that is whether it's solely our responsibility or do we share it with the Air Resources Board and maybe other agencies?
Thank you, that's an excellent question, and it really depends on the different, there's over 100 actions, right, included in the survey, and every action will require different kinds of resources. So for the ones that are related to APCD, as we look into the implementation, we're going to evaluate what resources we currently have, what capacity we have to start implementing those actions, and then build into our future budgets any other areas of need that we might need, whether it is, funding for additional incentive projects, or whether it's funding for additional staff to do work, or whether it's looking at grant opportunities to bring additional help as well. We're looking at this in a very comprehensive way. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of partnership that will be required, not just with the other regional agencies, but also with the Air Resources Board, because they are also an important partner in the implementation piece. And so each one of those partner agencies will have a role to play. And it was very positive that they were all at the table, co-developing this plan. So I'm happy to say that we've established a really strong collaboration with them, and we seek to continue that into the implementation of the program. Monica, I don't know if you had anything else.
Yeah, I'll just add 2 more things really quickly, but that are maybe might be a little tangible for others. But one is in terms of increased capacity in terms of compliance, because there was a stated need for increased inspections. Currently, APCD has an MOU with CARB in terms of mobile inspections for heavy duty vehicles. But given the immense volume, we know that even with increased people power doing those inspections, we need other support, such as technologies out there that could do that in a more automated way. The second thing that I've mentioned as well is because in addition to mobile sources, there's a big component in terms of land use, right? And so we have an amazing internal planning department, and they just don't have the capacity to be at every planning table where these discussions around land use, as they intersect with transportation and air quality, to be at all those tables and provide comments and guidance in those other spaces as well. So having increased planning support, and then more specifically too, we don't have an in-house person that's specifically focusing on CEQA. Like a CEQA review of these other planning documents as well, to make sure that there's alignment not only with the international borders SERP, but also alignment with portside SERP as well. So making sure that policies and plans that are moving forward, that we have folks in those meeting rooms helping guide and drive those conversations. So those are kind of 2 kind of high level that APCD does have resources and capacity to support to a certain extent, but not to the fullest vision of what the SERP is saying at this particular moment. So we're dedicated to seeking those resources and taking a phased-in approach to not say, oh, we can't do that, but to say, what can we do today? And what do we need to do the SERP to its fullest extent tomorrow as well?
Thank you.
Any other comments from colleagues here? Georgette, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Monique and Domingo for the work, that you all have been doing at the community. Wanna thank the community members for being here. And I was looking briefly as you were, giving us the presentation, the actual document, which is pretty extensive. I'm just wondering more as, and there seems to be like, the conversation was very robust and there's a lot of amazing direction, goals that were established and strategies and that's great. And I think the table is being set in terms of what gets implemented is the most important thing that we do after this gets adopted, which I think that's very significant, right? And I would want us to perhaps down the line, once it gets finalized and adopted by CARB, that we can have a follow-up and learn how we're implementing it. Just because that's where really the real work happens, right? And how we can facilitate the ability to bring more resources to ensure that it's implemented. Because that really is what will determine if we're succeeding or not. And if we're asking community members to participate, and trying to restore the trust, I think the trust will only be held if we do the follow-up. So just really want to make sure that there is that, and I know I'm not putting it on you all, but I just, want to make sure that really does happen, because that's the only way that we're gonna be really do the work that we're supposed to do. So I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward in doing that more intentional follow-up in the near future.
Oh, yeah, quick comment, go ahead.
Sure, just a quick comment, in response to Member Gomez's statement. We do anticipate routine reporting back to the board as to how the plan is being implemented. We do that currently with the Portside SERP, and so we'll be doing that with the IBC SERP as well. And in addition to annual reporting to CARB, because you're absolutely right, there's nothing worse than a plan that sits and gathers dust. And we really, Monique and Domingo have worked incredibly hard to build relationships with communities across the county, beyond the IDC, but also, across the county CBOs that we talked about at our last meeting with the EJ government to government grant. And so we want to ensure that when we build that trust, we maintain that trust, and implementation is absolutely the foundation of that. So we will be reporting back routinely on this.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll make a few comments and then we'll just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just lastly, I think, now in my new role, working at the border in Casa Familiar, and recognizing that, the reason that we're uplifting this particular focus at the border is because the air quality is pretty bad in certain times, and because of the movement of what's happening there. And I think that as we're engaging a bit more in our state efforts, I think there might be, maybe down the line, we can have more of an intentional conversation with our representatives to possibly carry something for the border to allocate resources, right, more intentionally. Because I do think that as conversations happen and we celebrate our binational identity, and the framing always gets framed economically, right? And there's a lot of benefits economically, but we really never center the environmental impacts to that. So I just think that there might be maybe a roundtable in which we can do this following year to try to plant a seed with their electeds to see if there could be something there. I know that the state right now, the budget is not the best, but they still have money, right? And that money gets allocated in certain ways, and whomever's the loudest will get a little bit of that money. And we have some amazing state electeds that are representing our region, so why not really leverage that? So.
Any other comments from my colleagues? I have a few before we take on the motion. But I don't need a response because I want to move on and finish our meeting close to our intended time for closure. I'm really thankful for the work that you're ultimately doing and working with the community. I'm one of the board members will go through all the recommended strategies that Monique you've laid out, and hopefully sit down with you sometime to go over them. And of course, I'll put in my 2 cents worth on additional strategies. I also want to see if we can to be able to model some of those strategies as to what kind of results do result in the foreseeable short term. And I'm also cognizant of CARB's scoping plan for 25% EMT reduction per capita by 2030. If anywhere in the state that should be done, it should be in these communities. That is a target that we should hold all of our agencies to. That is state law. And every EIR needs to comply with that. That includes the regional plan from Sandai, that they have to have an alternative that meets that goal. So I think we should push on that item. With that, I'll entertain a motion to move all 5 staff recommended actions.
So moved, Chair.
Moved by Shani Rivera
Second.
and seconded by Gomez.
Thank you, Chair Shu. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Yes.
Member Bush.
Yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Member Gloria.
Yes.
Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Chair Shu.
Aye.
With members Lawson, Raymer, and Vargas absent, that motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. Let's move on to E5, program spotlight on the air quality compliant mapping tool. We should note that for the record that this item's information item only, it will not be required in board action. So clerk can provide instructions for public testimony.
Thank you, Chair Shu. I would ask any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item to please dial in to the conference line now using the instructions provided on your Zoom screen. And you may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by pressing the by pressing the raise hand feature button at the bottom of the screen or by pressing *9. If there are any members of the public that wish to address the board on this item that are here in the conference room, please complete a speaker slip that can be found in the back of the conference room and submit that to me as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a presentation by Deputy Director Luki.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mayeni Luther. I am one of the Deputy Director for the District Overseeing Compliance and Engineering. This year, we're introducing a new agenda item named APCD Spotlight to provide updates on various efforts that support our vision of clean air for all. This afternoon, we're going to be presenting air quality complaint mapping tool, which is an interactive mapping tool that provides information regarding the air quality complaints that we investigate and how we respond to those complaints. So I have here with me Stephen Ember, who is going to be conducting the demonstration. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Amberg, and I'm an air quality specialist here at the district. I've also spent time in our compliance division as a supervising inspector after starting my air quality career as an inspector, who, among other things, investigated complaints. Complaints are an integral part of our compliance division and an important linkage to the community. Today, I'll demonstrate our new complaint dashboard and how it helps support the district's vision for clean air for all. Next slide, please. First off, what are complaints? When the public has an air quality concern, such as odors, truck idling, smoke, dust, improper asbestos removal, among others, they can submit an air quality complaint to the district to be investigated. The district receives approximately 600 air quality complaints per year, and inspectors are available 24/7 to investigate these complaints. Next slide, please. Here's a quick summary of the complaint process. The district will receive a complaint through various methods, including phone, email, and our complaint reporting app. Inspectors are assigned complaints to investigate to determine compliance of district rules and regulations. Inspectors maintain communication throughout the process, keep the reporting party aware of the investigation and result. Next slide, please. To make air quality complaint data easily available to the public, we published this interactive mapping tool and dashboard to our website this week. This dashboard gives spatial representation to where complaints are occurring in the county, as well as certain metrics and filtering features. I use the next few slides to go over how to use the dashboard, as well as the features presented. Next slide, please. The main feature of this tool is the map, which you will find in the middle of the dashboard. You'll be able to navigate the map and see information about the complaints represented on the map. Next slide, please. The complaint locations are represented by orange circles. If multiple complaints are nearby or at the same location, the map will cluster these points together and show how many complaints are represented by the cluster. These clusters will adjust and become more refined as you zoom into the map. Next slide, please. In addition to panning and zooming to navigate the map, just as you would Google Maps, you can use the search function to find a particular address, city, or location you are interested in and be taken there on the map. Next slide, please. When you click on an individual point, it will display a pop-up with information about the complaint, while clusters will show a list of complaints represented by that cluster, which can then be individually selected to view this information. This window contains information about the nature of the complaint, the timing of the complaint and district's response, as well as the outcome of the investigation. Next slide. There are also different base maps available at the top right, including satellite imagery, which can be changed based on user preference. In addition, the boundaries of our two AB 617 communities are available to toggle on and off to view how complaints may be affecting these communities. Next slide, please. You can also click on the expand icon in the top right corner, which will allow you to view any of the features full screen. This can be especially useful for navigating the map on a mobile device, where the tool may not render properly due to the screen size or settings. Next slide, please. Another way to view information about the complaints on the map, the section on the left titled Complaints in Map View. This is a list of the complaints that are currently in the map view, listed from the most recent to the beginning of our presented data set of March of 2022. This list will update as you move around the map and is provided as a quick reference to the types of complaints in the map view without having to click on individual points. Clicking on a complaint record on this list will bring up the informational pop-up and highlight the location on the map. You could also use the Zoom to function on the pop-up window to zoom to the location of that complaint record on the map. These functions will help those who live and work in the county be aware of the air quality concerns that are being reported to the district in their location. Next slide, please. This map also has some useful metrics and filtering options available. On the right side of the dashboard, there's a pie chart of the outcomes of complaint investigations. You can click on a section of the pie chart and see complaints with that specific outcome. As in this example, only complaints which resulted in enforcement action are shown. Using this next feature, we can even further filter that by selecting to only include certain months. Next slide, please. Below the pie chart, you'll see a graph of the number of complaints received each month. You can hover over to view the number of complaints in that month, or even select several months by clicking the bars on the chart. Like with the previous pie chart, these selections will then filter the complaints displayed on the map, as well as the performance metrics in the dashboard. Next slide, please. At the bottom of the dashboard is a collection of performance metrics regarding our response time to complaints, including a graph of our average response time by month, as well as other response time-based metrics. As discussed in the previous slide, these metrics will adjust based on the month selected. So as we change which months we are looking at, the values will adjust. We can look at the tool now and see all complaints that resulted in enforcement action between the months of May and July 2023, as well as the updated response metrics for those months. These metrics help keep us accountable to the public, which was a core element of the complaint response requirements in AB 423. Next slide, please. Lastly, in the bottom left, there's a section on how to submit a complaint, including links to download our app, as well as our email and phone numbers to give the public options on how and in what language they would like to communicate with us. With all of these tools in one place, this dashboard can be a one-stop shop for our complaint information and will help increase public engagement with our complaint program. Next slide, please. This completes the tour of the dashboard. This tool is available right now on our website at www.sdapcd.org/complaints. On that page, you can click the image of the dashboard and open the tool and begin exploring today. Next slide. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for giving me the time to demonstrate this new dashboard tool and show how useful it can be for the public. This is an informational only item, so no action is required. We are available for any questions.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Chair Shu. We have two members of the public wishing to address the board on this item today. We'll first call for Nicholas Bolo. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and please self-regulate your time using the timer that will come up on the Zoom screen.
Okay, Nicolas Baul with the Environmental Health Coalition. Just wanted to give a quick comment how exciting this tool is, especially for air quality advocates here in San Diego County. This tool is going to be effective at a lot of different fronts. I think nonprofit organizations working throughout the county are going to be able to identify hotspots in their neighborhood, be able to organize residents. And residents, I think on their end, are going to be able to see APCD actively doing work. And I think it gives legitimacy to this organization and to this agency. And so this tool is so incredible, and I think builds a lot on some ideas and concepts that EHC started talking about at the Clean Air Congreso last year, which we held at the Port Sites neighborhood. The whole idea of that event was to foster this culture of reporting and encouraging residents to take an active role in cleaning, in addressing air pollution in their neighborhoods. Tools like this, being able to see your report on an active screen and have a log of that, I think does a lot to encourage residents to continue to report and raise issues in their neighborhoods. I did have one question about the program. It wasn't super clear to me whether complaints are specifically tied to air permit holders. And if it is, great. If it isn't, I wonder if that would be an edit that we can make to the program. Just again, I think from an advocate perspective, if we can know the problem facilities that are getting flagged on a continuous basis, I think that'd be really great, a really great organizing tool for our organization. So that's it. Again, congratulations. This is a super exciting tool and commend all the work that it took to get this done.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Cesar Javier. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time using the timer that is on the screen.
Please do not misconstrue. I am not vying for cum laude in my graduation this afternoon. But maybe this is one of the cost recovery because this is science in action. Our experience is different. We need more than the mapping. Please come by, study the geography, how the air interacts 30 feet, 40 feet, so you will know the toxicity, density, and the impact to health and our ecology. Before, we saw the yellow bird, the red bird, the crow. When the kiln fires, they're gone. Hey, why? Where are the grapes? Very scanty to this period. We don't have grapes that big in the previous years. Please, not only this mapping, but go there That's the ground. Because we should be grounded, and that's the only way we could determine whether there is pollution, etc., etc. Let's also look at not only the mapping, but the laws governing these permitted businesses. The one that I presented to the board, the applicant even do not know his name. And the treasurer's office, oh, our city leaders are gone now. They approve it. The applicant cannot even spell his name, and he cannot identify the correct business. Non-metallic mineral manufacturing. Oh, I said, Mom, what is this? That is coded. Can I have another copy? No. Why? Confidential. Where is transparency here? Mapping is a part of that. We have to map the corrupt officials, the corrupt people who are destroying our city. The law is good, but they apply it in the wrong way. It should be in the right place, right setting. Where can you find a business without signboard? Where can you find a business there is no warning to children? Hey, this is toxic area, beware. And they sell their products at Balboa Park, guided, protected by the Pottery Guild of San Diego. I pity those vendors who are trying to ask for playing field. But this is the way. That's why mapping probably is part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Any comments from staff? I'm sorry, not staff, but my hesitation. My fellow board members, member Gomez.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the great presentation. This is exciting to see this, and when I got the email alert, I was geeking out, so this is great. I love visuals and I like to make metrics, so it really is very transparent. I do have a question. Curious, because I haven't navigated through the whole thing, but as you showed, you can show what the investigations, right? Is it safe to assume that if it's only 5% or the rest were investigated and there was no findings, or what is the understanding of that?
Sure, so the idea is to provide the outcome of the investigation. All complaints are fully investigated by our field inspectors, but some result in enforcement actions.
Okay.
Which is mostly notice of violations.
Okay, so it's just to show what the outcome was.
Exactly.
So it's assumed that we do investigate every single one. I just want to make sure that that's correct.
Yes, unless
Okay.
it's completely outside our jurisdiction, we do conduct a full investigation.
Okay, and then the other is, I don't know what the loop is in communicating with the person that submitted the complaint. Is there a close communication loop with them in terms of acknowledging and this is what happened from your submittal?
Definitely, yeah, that's part of our process. Our field inspectors contact the complainant after the investigation to convey our findings.
Okay, so thank you so much, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. Also really excited about this mapping tool. I'm on there now just because I am very visual and I like to get in there and, so for example, I'm on, thank you for featuring us. I saw that on the map. So I go to, there's an actual app and I know there's a Spanish version. So you download the app and that's where you can submit a complaint, but you can also go on the link that was shared to go on the website through San Diego APCD website. And there I'm on this complaint dashboard and I do a search for Escondido, that's the city that I'm in. And it gives me the list in map view. So for example, I'm looking at the most recent one, November 24th at 4:27 PM. It shows a complaint of odor. There was a response date the next day, very quick action there. However, it says investigation outcome open, no enforcement action taken. Does that mean it's open, like it's still happening, or someone went to go look and there wasn't anything found? What does that mean?
It's just so the complaint record is enclosed at this time. We publish the tool and, you know, we want to keep our data updated monthly. But when we were releasing the tool and we wanted to prevent any technical difficulties, which happened anyway, but so yeah, then we'll continue to update
Got it.
that monthly. So
So
you'll
the
see,
good
you'll
news
see a
is
closed
there's
tab.
been a response, so that means there's action taken, but this, the final hasn't been updated yet. That will probably happen like more of on a monthly
Correct,
basis.
so if you monitored that, you would see the status change.
Okay, got it. Okay, great. And then just because I'm very visual and I'm thinking about, you know, we have this in a different language in Spanish, right? We want many of our community members to participate. So one thing that I have found in outreach with Spanish speaking communities, especially, you know, folks who maybe aren't as tech savvy, is like videos showing you like what to do. So like maybe having a 1-minute video of like, hey, this is what you do, go to this website, click on this, type in this, like an actual walkthrough of how to use a tool, I think would be very beneficial. And videos are very shareable on social media. Yeah, so and it's very cross-generational. So I always find when I was playing with the I was playing with the Sandag tool, where you can, Sandag kind of put this tool out there where you can, list where there's a lot of accidents or you don't feel safe walking or biking. And so I went in my neighborhood and started saying, we need a left turn signal here, we need all that, right? And so it's a visual mapping tool that your community can see where others are also saying that there's issues. So anyways, I have found that, and I did like a little video demo for my constituents, and got a really great response. So I just encourage more visuals and really bite-sized pieces that are shareable for the public so that we actually use this tool, because I could tell there's been a lot of thought and work into it, but I just want to make sure that it gets utilized, right? That's the next step. So thank you so much, really exciting.
Enrique and then next.
Thank you for the presentation. I also, like Georgette, I geeked out on it. And of course, I looked at my neighborhood. But you answered part of the question, Stephen, which is that it's updated monthly. It'd be great if it was updated more frequently, and if that's not possible, at least to put a statement in there so that people, you know, they complained yesterday and it's not there, so that they have a sense of what's happening. And the question I had was also, are other agencies who may have jurisdiction or purview over a complaint notified, or is there any kind of networking where they can have access to that?
Yes, we are certainly working, there's a lot of collaboration with the cities and county departments and other agencies. And we often refer complaints to them, you know, depending on the nature of the complaint.
Okay.
And we're still, also to your first point, we're gonna be promoting this tool via social media. We just published this week, so we're definitely wanted to put it out there. And I think I appreciate the suggestion on the video. I think that'll be great.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Esther.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to suggest that Board Member Martinez do a YouTube video how to do it yourself. Look at this really cool new tool available.
That'll be great. Any other comments or questions from, if not, this was an informational item. So thank you all. Thank you, Mahami and Stephen. This was a great tool. I just maybe make a side comment, you know, a number of years ago, this board asked that the hotspots be mapped better and made available, and that happened. And then we're moving along and creating even more useful tools so that people can learn what's happening with regards to air pollution in their area. Thank you. That concludes most of our agenda. We have a report from our Air Pollution Control District Officer. Paula, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Shu. I just have two quick items to report. I'll start off by just congratulating Chair Shu and Vice Chair Sanchez. It's going to be great to work with you over the coming year. And it's been great to work with Vice Chair Shu and former Chair Bush. Unfortunately, he left before I could give him my thanks, but last year was a great year and I really appreciate your service and and looking forward to the year to come. So I just had a couple of quick brief updates on our strategic planning process. Over the last couple of months, the team has been conducting extensive public outreach with CBOs, industry, government partners. And we also held a session in December with our management team and all of our supervisors. And we've got more meetings coming up in the next few weeks with our staff, stakeholders, and community steering committees. Those are gonna be planned for February. But I wanted to highlight our next public forum for our strategic plan will be on February 8th from 5 to 8 p.m. That will be a remote forum, so there will be remote participation for that. It was postponed by a few days due to a conflict with the State of the County address. And so we will be holding it on February 8th. And so the public forum is going to be seeking input not only on our long-term strategic plan, but we're also going to be bringing forward questions regarding or seeking public input rather on our budget for the upcoming fiscal year. So we're going to be combining the two to try to really be strategic about how we're interacting and engaging with the public on those two issues. And so I'm going to be sending you an updated social media toolkit, which you can use. We'd ask for your help in promoting that forum. Also our website is up and running for our strategic plan. You see it right when you get onto our homepage. And so any help that you can provide in directing traffic to that website, folks can provide comments 24/7 there as well. And then we will be holding 2 strategic planning sessions with board members. First will be in February, and Marvis is reaching out to the Planning and Policy Committee members to schedule that. That will be a session sometime in late February. And the second will be a mini session with the full board at your next meeting in March. So more opportunity for strategic plan input to come. And so that concludes my comments on the strategic plan. And then I just had one last quick update. And that is, I wanted to let you know that this will be the last board meeting for our council, Vera Tiagi. She will be leaving us to serve as general counsel for San Diego Community Power. And I want to thank Vera for her service to us. She's been an invaluable resource to us during our transition phase. And we know she's going to be a great asset to San Diego Community Power and the region as a whole going forward. So congratulations to her. We will miss her, but we know that, again, the San Diego Community Power folks will be fortunate to have her. And I just want to express my sincere thanks to her and best wishes in your new role. So.
I really appreciate it. I have enjoyed my time here. It's a really great group of people. Everyone was completely welcoming. They're very smart, very engaged, very kind, and I have enjoyed my time here. I wasn't necessarily expecting to leave quite so soon, but I know I'll stay in touch and hopefully be working with everyone again in the future. Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you. That concludes my comments today.
Thank you, Paula. Vera, I'm an alternate on the board of community power. So
I would be happy to work with all of you.
No, it's a win-win for us.
That's why she applied for the job. That's why she applied for that job.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for your participation. One last comment is we did hear all the public commenters. Thank you for making your comments. And we will actually touch the ground because I think we are planning some field trips for board members. So we do get to some of these sites, so we don't have to just experience and see them virtually on a map. So we will go to some of these sites that are in the news and that we have the most amount of concern about. I'm looking forward to really doing my best here and hopefully continue our movement forward for San Diego Air Pollution Control District. So with that, this meeting is adjourned and our next meeting will be March 14th at 2 p.m.